Kathy, you want to introduce our guest speaker?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Chief Kifer really needs an introduction because I think most of the people in this room, or many of you already know him because he's been really active in the community. And we are very grateful, though, that you're here. This is Chief Paul Kifer of the Hagerstown Police Department. And he has been chief now for 6 years. Prior to that, he was a captain. And he came to our meetings pretty regularly at that time because one of the things that I love about Chief Kifer is that he's always believed in being engaged in the community and community policing, and really has been a good friend to the houses of worship and offering to help us in any way. We know we can reach out to him with any concerns that we have, and so we're very grateful for that. So thank you for coming to speak today, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
Can you guys hear me without the microphone?
And don't forget to get pie if you have it.
Can you hear me without the microphone?
It's better with it.
Better with it? Okay. I don't know how I follow what just happened here with the kids. I should have went first because that's too hard to follow. But I want to thank everyone for having me. I always love coming to the HARC meetings. Unfortunately, my time being chief, it's a little harder to pull away to do that. But I've asked Kathy to invite us again so we can start re-engaging. I know COVID got in the way there for a while and we missed each other. So I promise you, we, the police department, whether it's myself or someone else from the police department, will be coming to your meetings and engaging and having conversations with you guys about what we all can do collaboratively to better our community. So just a little bit about what's been going on over the last couple of years. Some of it you probably have seen on our Facebook posts and through the media. We've been really trying to address the enforcement part of our society that's gone into this thing since post-COVID, which is a lot of people don't feel like they have to follow rules anymore, no matter what that rule is, whether it's just speeding to you name it, that people just feel like they don't have to follow the rules. So one of the things we had that was such a big thing in our community was the dirt bikers and the four-wheelers riding around the city. And in the big scheme of things, that was nothing. I mean, think about it. We weren't shooting people, we weren't having dead people laying around, but it was still dangerous, and it was a mark on our society saying that this is how our society is going, right? So we wanted to address that. So we went to the point of buying additional drones, and I now have 14 drones. I have 14 operators. I'm getting ready to train up another half dozen or so. So we have drones on the street every single day that we can put up at any given moment, and we fly those drones. But once we got that program up and running, in 3 weeks, from the very first time we flew the drones going after the dirt bikers and four-wheelers, we've not had a single dirt bike rider or a single four-wheeler riding through the city of Hagerstown like they were before. This whole summer has been very good. And it's a message that our community doesn't want to have that here. And again, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't the crime of the century. But that's the message that we want to send. But in the same breath, we want to be an agency that's about prevention instead of reacting. Because if we react, what's happened? Someone's already a victim of a crime. Someone's already suffered something. So if we can do on the prevention side and avoid having to respond, that's really the mark of what we should be trying to do, which is what you guys are doing, right? We just approach it from a slightly different perspective, a different method. So collaboration in that way, I think, is something I'll talk about here in a little bit that I think we can do together. So it's very important to me, and I appreciate Kathy's introduction. I'm very community-oriented. I'm born and raised in Hagerstown. I live just outside of Hagerstown now. Met my beautiful wife, and when we got married, she had a house in Big Pool, Maryland, so I followed my wife where she lives at, so that's where I moved at. So, but Hagerstown's always my home. My family's here. My parents are here. Other relatives live here. Hagerstown will always be my home. And so when I come to work, I'm home. And I pride myself on hiring really good people to make me look really good. Because I'm not the smartest man in the room. and I'm not the guy that does most of the work. So I'm going to introduce Danielle Staley here in a little bit. She's back at the table with me. She's a civilian employee. She used to work for parole and probation, and there was a position offered up that I wanted to start up and bring her on to run, it's called MSIN, Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network, through the governor's office. And all we do is, and that, to simplify it, we track criminal networks, human trafficking, drug trafficking, firearms, things like that. And we coordinate with our partners across the state and locally to try to disrupt those functions, to not allow that to take and embed itself here in the city and in the county. And Danielle does a fantastic job on that. That's not why I brought her. I brought her because Danielle is like the Energizer Bunny. She has picked up and she has volunteered. She's come up with her own programming. She's come up with things that has nothing to do with MSIN to better our community. She does community talks on weekends and evenings on various topics, to active shooter, to you went to the gatekeepers function Saturday to talk to the gentlemen there that are re-entering into our community. And her and I, along with Addie Nardi from the Boys and Girls Club and Shelley McIntyre, our council member, started a group called ENVY. It's Ending Needless Violence with Our Youth. It's a youth violence prevention group. That program has started a couple years ago. And with COVID and everything going on, it kind of just floundered and kind of was hanging out there in the ether with nothing really behind it. And what we've decided to do to really bring the community together is we are going to start in October the very first youth traveling, city-only traveling basketball league for middle school age kids that can't afford to be in traveling leagues, that can't afford to be in organized sports. Like if you play Little League ball, you do those things, it costs money. It also costs time for parents to get them to these places. And we found that that's the barriers that we have with a lot of these kids, that they can't do these things because of what's going on in their lives. So we're creating a no barrier basketball league. That is the carrot to get these kids into our hands. And with that, we have our organizations around the community, Community Action Council, Goodwill, all those other organizations that help families are going to be then working with not only the kids, but with their guardians and their siblings. So we're going to get a cadre of 72 kids we're looking at right now, 6 teams of 10 to 12 kids. We're going to outfit the kids with complete uniforms down through the sneakers. We're going to provide transportation. We're going to have the coaches are going to be paid. We're getting assistant coaches, hopefully. Danielle can talk about this a little bit, from our gatekeepers organization, the gentleman with lived experience. Not to come in and preach to the kids, not to come in and talk to the kids about, don't do what I do, here's my background, but to be that person that can give back to the community in their way. And in those times of need, when a young male or female is talking about doing some harm to someone at practice or in a game, and later on, they can pull them aside and then tell their story to them after they've built that trust as a coach. So we determined we wanted to do that. The other part of this is that every kid will get a free physical. We've already got that lined up. Probably one of the only times they'll ever see a doctor. They're going to get an opportunity for that. And prior to every practice, there's going to be a 1-hour study group where we help them with their schoolwork. That is where, what I heard you just say, your students want to be involved. It would be great for us to have them show up and help tutor these kids. A day a week, show up at their practice and do that. So it's just one avenue, one idea. We'll talk about it later, but that's what we're talking about doing. And what the ask from the faith-based community is that for our basketball games, we're going to be at 3 different locations, 3 elementary schools that we're going to use for our basketball games. And we'd like to have the faith-based community be a great part of that. We're looking to get the parents of these kids there to watch and engage with their kids' activity. But one of the barriers we found is that they have other siblings and they tend to say, I can't come in, I got 3 other kids at home and I can't leave them. we want them to bring the kids. And then we need someone to kind of watch those kids in an area so their parents can watch the kids play basketball and engage with our community partners when they're in need. When they can't pay their electric bill, we'll have community action council there to say, hey, can you bring some paperwork to you and let's sign you up now for one of our programs. Bringing other community partners in to do it in that way. Not setting up tables, not being overt about it, but having them embedded in with the parents in the stands, getting to know them one-on-one so that they can better give them some respect and dignity in their time of need. So we're trying something different. It's going to be a little unique in that sense, but it's going to take some people, the people in this room and your congregations to really help us. Work the concession stand part of this when we bring them there. We want the families to come and be able to get a meal that night, but they don't have to worry about where they're going to eat. So we don't want to focus on the trauma. We don't want to focus on the kids' problems. We want the kids to feel normal. We want them to be part of something that they can't be part of somewhere else. And in the meantime, get that help without knowing they're getting the help. Because that's typically what we do. We talk about the kids and what's going on with them, their bad side of that, and it gets into their psyche. And we want to get away from that. The other thing that we're getting away from is we're never going to use the word at-risk kids ever again. We're going to use the term crossroad kids. They're at a crossroads in their life, and we, those of us that are going to be part of this program, are going to help direct them and detour them back to the right path, whatever that path is. So, very energized about what we want to do. Danielle put so much work into this. I'll get credit for this, but the lady back there did all the work, and she is tireless at it. So we've got some really good partners that are really energized about wanting to be part of this. And this is just one component. I mean, we've already been in discussion about doing a group for kids that are the class clowns and getting someone that teaches improv comedy to bring them in and give them a focus to focus on. They're not theater kids, but they're not, on the other side. Find that little niche for them. And I think that we have the ability over the next several years to really branch out into other areas for other kids that aren't about sports. That maybe just don't want to do the theater side, or they don't want to do that side. But the other thing we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be starting a podcast. That podcast is going to be, hopefully, we're looking to talk to a few gentlemen to moderate the podcast that are just two guys that can talk to anybody, and they're pleasant in their personalities to talk. And again, we want it to be organic conversations with partners and hopefully some of our kids. So we can have fun on the podcast and we can learn about them and not have partners come in and just, hey, tell me about what you do at Reach. I want to talk to you and say, hey, tell me about your life, what's going on, and have a conversation that then leads into how you got to where you are at Reach. Tell the story about Reach, tell the story about other organizations without pushing it to people, because I think people turn that off sometimes. They get lost. So I think building community means getting to know each other. And so we're going to try to do it that way. We're going to take a different approach. But the main focus is our kids. And if we can prevent kids at an early age, that prevents the stuff at the later age when they're adults. And so we need help. We need help from you guys, from your congregations. And we're not asking for a heavy lift. We're talking 3 games a week for 13 weeks.
13 weeks.
So we would ask for congregations to come together, 3 or 4 congregations to adopt a team, so they can be spread across those 3 or 4 congregations to share that. Because everyone gets busy, life's busy, right? So when you can't make it, you can make it, and we can make sure we got that coverage that we need to provide the service we want to at those games. And it gives you guys an opportunity, to talk to the family, talk to the kids, to bring them towards the Lord and do those things as well, without, again, being real pushy about it. They get to know you and they get to know what's going on, then maybe they have interest in coming to church and coming to your events. So, again, the more we touch these kids and their parents, the more we can make some changes. So that's the big thing that we're doing. I'm going to let Danielle come up and talk here in a second. Crime in Hagerstown is really down. I mean, we don't have a lot. I've put together a year ago a crime suppression team, and they have been out really taking it to the streets. I mean, took so many guns off the street, drugs, all those things that really have an impact on people's lives is really had an impact. I don't want to say we're slow. I never want to jinx myself, but things are going well. Staffing for us is still a challenge. I'm 6 people down on my staffing. That counts 5 that I got going into my academy and 3 coming out of my academy. So those don't really count because they don't actually get to do the job yet. But with the staff that I have, they kill it every day. They go out and they put in the effort. And I would challenge anyone in this room or in my community to say that they feel a difference that we don't have the same amount of people we had 5 years ago. I would challenge anybody to say that. These guys step up every day and do the job with less people, and they figure out how to do it and how to get the job done. So we've tried everything we can to give them the help in that area. We've started a watch center. So we have civilian people that we've hired that were former dispatchers, retired cops, that work in a center that take a lot of the calls that we can handle over the phone. Less response we have to go to then for the guys to eat up that time on the street so they can respond to the calls they really need to respond to. So that's one thing that's really been beneficial. Our goal is to have 30% of our calls go through the watch center, and a large time we do meet that goal. Those calls get transferred over to them. Started this week, reinstituting our community resource officer program. I had wrote a grant several years ago. We put together a program. I had 3 officers that were designated to specific finite neighborhoods to address community neighborhood issues from a granular level, not just from an enforcement level. And it worked better than I expected, but it worked exactly like I wrote it because of the work those three people did. Unfortunately, when the staffing hit hard, I had to disband that unit and move them back into the regular patrol function. So we're going to adopt a modified version of that now, starting yesterday started. We've got 3 officers that are still assigned to their shift. They still work when the guys work on their shift, but with their duties when they work, they're going to be that CRO duty. And so I've got the John Street community, I've got the Fairground Park, Locust, Mulberry area designated, and I've got Locust Point down to the sheets on Cannon Avenue. Those 3 areas are the main focus areas we've got right now. So they'll be addressing those issues. They'll be getting to know the people in those communities on a one-on-one basis and working on longer-term solutions and not just short-term enforcement. We've also started shift-level detectives. So I've sent 3 officers from each shift to detective school, and they will start working lower-level investigations at the shift level. Their assignment when they come to work will be the detective working on the shift. My detective bureau has been hit as well in terms of retirements and people leaving. I have not been able to replace those detectives back upstairs, so we're pretty much turning my detective bureau into a more major crimes unit and moving the minor stuff back downstairs and giving officers downstairs the opportunity for growth. Again, they do a good job there. Openings open upstairs. They're the first to get to move upstairs into that full-time position. So we're trying to create that growth. We're trying to create opportunities. So we're just reevaluating how we provide the service to our community with the staff that we have. And we're trying to be innovative in doing that. We've got some other programs in the works that I don't have a great liberty to talk about in public, but Ashley Roush is my community liaison person. She works with the homeless, the addicted, and the mental health providers, working to help collaborate us better as a city, not just the police department, with all those organizations, and she does a great job. And we've got a pretty hefty program that we're looking to build on if I can get the council to go for it. I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet, so I don't want to get too much, but I'm trying to tease you a little bit because it's going to be an ask from you guys on that one too. Again, not a big ask, but it's something that I think is going to be beneficial if we can get the faith-based community involved in that program as well. We're probably a year or 2 out on that one, I would think. But it's exciting that we're going to try this. And again, it's the city doing it, but it's the police department taking the lead to run these programs. Back to the youth initiative, we've modeled this somewhat after a program out in Santa Rosa, California. And when we brought the gentleman over to talk to us about our program, the first thing he said was, take it away from the police department. Don't have the police department do it. And no one else is gonna do it. This is it. This is where it's gonna land. This is where and it works here for us. We have a great community that supports us, and I don't know if they had that out there, but it works here, and this is where it needs to be, and I'm happy to have it on my plate. Dealing with the homeless and dealing with those other issues, again, falls on the plate of the police department. We are the largest and only social service agency that never closes and can't tell you we can't help you. Think about that once. Police department is a social service agency. Does anybody ever think they would hear anybody say that? Majority of the calls we go on have nothing to do with crime. Our calls are now about people that are addicted, that are zombies walking around the streets, homeless that are camped out somewhere on a public space, kids that don't want to go to school and their parents don't know what to do, all kinds of different things. The majority of the calls that we take are social service calls. And my guys were never trained to be social service agents. We've had to adopt that over the course of our lifetime in this profession. And it's the life, it's what we are. So I've accepted that, and part of the reason why I'm taking on these programs is because that's what a social service agency should do, right? So that's where we are with that. And it's an exciting time. It's a transformational time for us in law enforcement. And I've been grateful for 32 years to work here in Hagerstown, doing the job that I do. Doing a job that I never, ever dreamed I would ever do growing up. When we played cops and robbers when I was a kid, I played the robber. It was always the fun role to play. So I was a cabinet maker by trade. I went to trade school, did all that, had my own business. Struggled early in my life, had to put food on the table for my family. And friends that I went to school with were police officers and told me to take the test. It's a good job, stable, benefits. So I took them up on it, and God sent me here. It's the one job that I can't imagine not doing after 32 years. And so I love what I've done. I love meeting people like you throughout my career, people I would have never met. It's been because of this job. So I'm excited about it, and I want to bring Danielle up to talk a little bit about Envy again, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm pretty sure I did. And I want to give her kudos, because she is the workhorse behind a lot of these programs and the things she does. And she does it without being asked. And that's the kind of people I try to surround myself with. So
I'm pretty loud. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So again, my name is Danielle Staley, and I came, it's been almost 2 years ago when the chief said, hey, I've got a position open, you want to come? And I was like, yeah, it's time to come back home. I was working down the road. I was with parole and probation for about 13 years, and I worked with very high risk. I worked with gang members and violent offenders. That was my caseload. One of the things that I loved about that, though, was that I was seeing them multiple times a week. I was getting the chance to talk with them, getting to know them, getting to know their family, their girlfriends, their kids, and I loved that part of that job. Then I went down the road to Sykesville, and I was teaching down there, and I missed that. So to be able to come back home and work back here and try and prevent some of that was a no-brainer to me. Then we come, he says, hey, do you want to come to this NV meeting? I don't know what it is. So I went to the first meeting, and I left there offering to be the program director. So he's not somebody I can say no to usually. But I do love working for the chief, and one of the things I love about him is the first day he told me, ask for forgiveness, not permission. And I use that every day. But he's very innovative. He's a very outside of the box kind of thinker, which allows me to be very creative when I'm talking about prevention and dealing with people, because every person is different. So you have to look at solutions very differently. With Envy, one of the things that I love about it, one of the key components when we've been talking about how do we address things with our youth, is it has to be a community solution. It cannot be us working on it, Goodwill working on it, the health department. It has to be all of us. It's a community problem. We have to have a community solution. So that's why we're here today with this ask of you to be part of that solution with us. The conduit at this point is going to be that basketball league. And we need your help with that, because that's then going to feed into the rest of our programming and really start turning the lives of our community around. So that's kind of my story and how I'm here. We do have a lot of exciting things, and I'm willing to, if you guys have gym space, let me know. If you're running programs for kids, let me know. It's something we can work on together. Volunteers, the kids, we will be hitting you up, I promise. I'm not afraid to ask for anything, because I know that it's for the good of all. So I don't have a hesitation at all to walking up and asking anybody, and Miss Dion back there knows that. I hit her up all the time. But I'd love to partner with you guys and see where we can get going.
So one of the other things I want to talk about that Danielle did on her own, she brought back our reentry program with gatekeepers that we started years ago when she was on probation. And we meet with those men and women that come back to our community once a month. And it's not a come to Jesus speech, it's not a fright speech, it's welcome back, welcome home, and how can we help you? We bring community services in there to help them for anything we think they could need. Getting a license, CASA's there, and I give the speech every time. You may not be someone that's abusive to women, but what if your sister's boyfriend is? Instead of you going and trying to deal with it and taking care of that problem for your sister, because that's where your emotions going to be, which puts you back in jail, you can get her to CASA and deal with it that way. And it seems to have a message there. So again, trying to approach people where they are and give them that respect and dignity that they deserve. And then she started a youth reentry program as well that she deals with juvenile services. Again, she came to me and goes, "Hey, I started this." I'm like, "Okay," That's how I've always lived my career, was begging for forgiveness before I ask for permission, most of the time. Because it's the way you kind of get things done. And I will never fault my staff for trying something, as long as their heart's in the right place. And what their methods are ethical and moral. I'll let them try. If they fail, they try, we'll try something else. So, again, very happy and proud of where I work at. I'm extremely happy with the staff I hire. And my civilian staff are far and beyond the best around. Her and Ashley are just, I can't keep up with them. They drag me along. I'm tired at the end of the day. But open to any questions you guys might have about anything we got going on in the city, anything we got going on with us. Yes.
First of all, Chief, I want to thank you for the efforts with the four-wheelers and the ATMs, because I'm one of the complainers. And I realize I'm one of the many times complaining between 11:30 p.m. and 1 in the morning. So thank you very much for those efforts.
And I would never complain about someone complaining about it. I just didn't have an answer until we got the drones up there. That was
Thank you.
really.
But my question is,
yes.
I'm a volunteer with HARC's Refugee Welcome Network, and working with refugees who have a variety of needs, as well as cultural and language difficulties. Okay? One of the frustrations I'm experiencing is there's no central place to start. So yes, we have been in touch with CAC, and I'm dealing with REACH, and I was at Goodwill this morning, and here you are today, and I wanted to be sure I was here. Is there no centralization, or is there a way that we can centralize? Because there are a whole lot of people doing a lot of things which seem to overlap.
And yes, that frustration that you have, even all of our partners have that frustration. dealing with social service agencies and nonprofits is like, corralling cats sometimes. Because everyone's they gotta deal with their own stuff. And where Reach is doing something and they're good at it, they may be doing something they're maybe not as good at, but then there's another agency doing something the same way, better. But it takes a lot to say, hey, give up your funding for that to make it better over here, because then it may have to do with staffing. So bringing Ashley on board has been one of the focal points to try to get that central location kind of thing. Ashley Roush, my community liaison coordinator. So having her on board is where she's been on now for less than a year. So she's really been embedding herself into all the issues and problems and getting to know all the community partners and really what they do and what they can do. So we can try to figure out how to put that into that central kind of function.
We have a start to that.
Yeah.
So we do have a start to that centralization of services.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We have a start to that centralization of services that you're talking about. We're starting it right now with the youth that we work with. There's a database system called Wellsky that a lot of organizations are already working with through Meredith.
Called what?
Wellsky, Wellsky.
Oh, I got a meeting with them next week.
That allows us to
How big
essentially create a case, which is a person, and then we can link that person to any of those other agencies for whatever services through that database system. The other benefit to that is that whoever you have referred that person to, all of those agencies working with that person or that family can see each other's notes. So you're not duplicating services, you can be more effective, you can understand what another agency is doing with that client if maybe they haven't been quite forthcoming with you about it, but it doesn't share to everyone. Only those entities that referral has been made to, and there's a waiver that they sign to allow you to do that. But that is a huge benefit. We're just getting that started with the juvenile side, but I know agencies are already, like Goodwill and the health department are already using that. So it might be something for you to get in on as well.
Thank you. Goodwill this morning actually did take down lots of names, and the client signed a piece of paper.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's probably what they're gonna be doing.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna enter that individual into that and then make those referrals within that database.
Exactly, but each caseworker has something like at least 30 clients, which meant it was tossed back to me as a volunteer, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they can only do so much work. So they provide a list of resources and say, here, go talk to those people.
So they might be using something different then, okay? So there is that component of, here's my caseload that I'm directly working with as the workforce director or as the homeless outreach coordinator. So there's all of those different components, and they have their own caseload that they're talking with those folks individually. But when we're talking about how do we get them to other services, other entities and organizations,
Yes.
that's where Wellsky becomes beneficial. So they're two different things I think that we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it later, Paulette.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna beat this into the ground. I just wanted to know. Don't worry. I'm
But there is
fine.
help. There is help out there.
Like I said, we're trying to coordinate that into a central kind of focal point so that Reach is doing whatever they're doing with the client coming to them. They can see what 3 other places have done and go, well, I don't need to repeat that now. I can just focus on this, which
Yes.
makes it more efficient and effective.
Exactly.
And it's better for them because now they're not wasting time and money. I can deal with more clients because I only have to do 1 part instead of 3 parts or 4 parts. So we're working on that as a collective. The city's not responsible for that, but we're taking the lead on trying to kind of make that happen and figure out how to make that happen. Yes.
All of the community resources, our congregations each year do several things with Vester, Community
Community of Hope.
So is that been now enveloped in the South End community resource? Or
The CRO working that in, we'll work with them directly. Yes. Yeah. That's where one of our CROs used to be
okay,
before.
so but the Vester Community Hope
It still exists.
It still exists.
Yeah, it didn't
Yep.
change the entities within those areas.
Right.
It just dedicated an officer
An
to
officer
work
in that area.
with that
Right.
area.
West Community Hope is a fantastic organization. They've done some phenomenal work since they've accepted that idea. So, no, they're still there. They're still heavily involved investor. Yeah.
Can you speak to some of the privacy concerns that were raised over the usages of the drones so heavily downtown?
So we follow all the rules of the privacy rules that we're governed by. We also have to fly under FAA rules. So all my guys have pilot's license. So we have limits on where we can fly, how we can fly. So one of the things about the drones is that we have to have purpose with our drone flies. So I can put them up and I can do training flights where I'm just flying and maneuvering and doing those things. But in order to do surveillance on anything, I have to have a reasonable suspicion to do so. I have to have a purpose for that. So I can't just fly around and just randomly go, oh, I'm going to look in this person's backyard, or I'm going to look over here. The law doesn't allow us to do that. There are specific laws to that. The airspace above your property is not protected. There is no protection to privacy for that. So if I have a reason to fly over 10 acres of land because you're running a meth lab in the middle of the property, and I've got reason to do so, I can fly over there and I can get that evidence without any search warrant or anything, because the airspace above the place where you are is not protected under the Constitution. So that privacy, you give up that privacy to the space above you. So to give you an easy example, if your neighbor says that you're doing something illegal in your backyard and you got an 8-foot high privacy fence, and they're over there, they're doing X, Y, and Z, and your neighbor says, you can climb my tree and look over there, I'm allowed to climb your tree and look into your backyard to see if I can see that. That privacy doesn't exist. I can't fly and look in, I can't look into your windows of your home, I can't do those things with a drone. That privacy doesn't extend into the house. But exterior, the privacy is less. There's less privacy there under the law. But for surveillance purposes, I can't just fly around and just randomly surveil places. I'm not allowed to do that. And we don't have the time and bandwidth to do that anyway. So we've got the drones we have. I can fly. I can put up 300 or 400 feet in the air at Fairgrounds Park, and I can see the tag numbers on a car at Sheets on Cannon Avenue. That's how good the camera is. I don't even have to be close to where you are with the drone. And so it doesn't have to go too far. I can literally fly the thing up and do that. The drones that we have have some AI components to it. I can lock onto a vehicle or a dirt bike, and the drone will essentially follow that dirt bike for me. So the piloting of it is really simple and easy. We also have drones, small ones, that we use for our special response team. So anytime we go on any kind of search warrants with the special response team, our SWAT team, in the past, we'd have to kick the door open and do this entry, and everybody's got their guns drawn, and we're doing all this and that. Now, we get the door open, and we fly the drone in. And we clear the area with the drone, and then the guys step into the living room, and if there's a door closed, they open that door, and they fly the drone further, so that we really slow everything down, so we don't have to worry about an accidental shooting of someone or getting into a gunfight unnecessarily, all those things. So we really made some leaps and bounds to the safety of not only our community, but the guys that wear the uniform that are going into these areas. To give you an example, we had a gentleman that assaulted his wife, broke into the house next door, duplex, and so we got there, we got a search warrant and a warrant for him, and we went in, he was armed, and so we flew the drone in, and we kept clearing different sections of the house. They opened the basement door and they flew the drone down there, and the drone flew in behind, as many of you guys have in your basements, your furnace sits down there, and there's a little space between the furnace and the wall. Drone flew to that part and could look down past the furnace. You could see the shins of his legs. So he was laying on his side like in a fetal position, and he had pulled some stuff on top of him to try to hide himself. And he was laying there. All you could see was his feet and his shins. So the drone kept hitting the wall, kept hitting the furnace, trying to get some movement from him, and he wasn't moving. And he wouldn't give any indication that he was moving. So my SWAT team guys decided they had to go down there and go get him. And so they finally went in and saved his life because he had overdosed. and they wound up getting Narcan to save his life. But that was an incident where the drone gave them an exact location where he was. They had a plan of how they were going to approach him and do what they had to do so to keep everybody as safe as they could. So the interior drones we've used a lot since we've gotten the drones. And we just bought a new one that we were testing that you wear the virtual reality goggles with it to fly it. And the guys just like, yeah, we need like more of these, because that was the cat's meow, what they wanted that. So we're really trying to use our technology to force multiply what we do in a safe way. That drone going up in the air takes the place of 5 people for me. If I can fly that drone up and watch a house that we're getting ready to do a search warrant on, and someone bails out of that house and runs away, that would take 5 people to kind of surround that area. I can do it with one drone operator that just directs my guys to where this person runs to. And if you saw our footage with the Home Depot where they got on top of the roof and they were trying to burglarize the Home Depot at night, our drone went up. It's got the night vision part of it. We captured 5 of the 6. 1 got away early on, but we got 1 that went into the woods, caught that one. We got the 2 on the roof that were at the other end, and then 2 tried to hide in a ventilation duct work. And the drone saw them going in there and directed the guys back, said that's where they are. Guys would have never known to look there at nighttime if they wouldn't have the drones up there. So the technology's really been beneficial to us. We have the largest and best camera system in Maryland. We have over 500 cameras in the city. We beat Baltimore hands down. Ocean City's probably close to us in terms of their camera system, but we bought a new software program that runs our camera system now. So if I want to go back and retrieve some footage on a suspect or somebody I'm looking for someone that wears green pants and has a yellow shirt during this time frame, I can put that into my software and it'll pull up still photos of camera footages during that time frame of anybody that matches that description. And then I go, that's the person I'm looking for, and then it'll track that person back as far as I want it. It's taken countless hours of time of just sitting there and fast forwarding and reversing footage to find the stuff that we need. So it's not real time, it's historical only. So it's not the AI thing where everybody's afraid of it. We're getting to that component, but it backtracks and it allows us to be more efficient in the investigative part of it. We've solved so many crimes with the camera system and the way we do things. One more thing I want to tell you what you get from the Hagerstown Police Department you won't get from other agencies. We pretty much respond to everything. If someone calls us, we respond. A lot of people think we shouldn't do that anymore. Don't have enough staff. Why are you going to these calls that really aren't police calls? Well, let me tell you why. One of my officers we had a homicide that happened here recently, and the suspect was described wearing a certain type of clothing. And the officer on scene, when he got it from the detectives what we were looking for, said, I knew who that is by the clothing description. Because I was on a call earlier, unrelated, the guy wasn't even part of the call, but he was there, and he recognized him. And it was a call that was a nothing call, one that we probably wouldn't have gone on and other agencies wouldn't go on. He then identified. So we get out with people all the time, people that are homeless, that aren't committing a crime, people that are addicted that aren't committing a crime, but then they go commit a crime for whatever reason. And then we get a picture of that person from the sheets or from 7-Eleven or from one of the convenience stores or from someone's personal camera system. And then that gets pushed out to all my guys. Anybody know this person? They're like, yeah, I was just out with them yesterday. They were homeless and I was just dealing with them yesterday. I know exactly who that is. And we're able to solve those crimes. So our closure rate at the police department is well above the national average. And when it comes to major crimes like homicides, no one beats us on closure rates on homicides. I don't want homicides to happen, but we can't really control that. So we try to control other things that we can. We look at how we reduce burglaries, theft from automobiles, theft of automobiles, crimes that can be controlled. We work on those through our CompStat process. We analyze everything every 2 weeks to figure out where things are happening. We apply our staffing into those areas. So we really use an analytical approach to how we put our people out there. And it's not just willy-nilly. We do that because we're using that data to kind of help figure out how we can stop things from happening worse. And then, you know, obviously our community outreach is a big part of that. We have a community that's willing to give us information. It's a little harder sometimes, and fear comes from that. People are afraid they're going to be retaliated against. I get that. But for everyone in this room, there's multiple ways of getting hold of us with information without identifying who you are. And I'll take it. I'll take the information. If you say it's Johnny Smith did it, and you don't want to identify who you are, there's a way for you to get that information to us without us knowing who you are. And our website explains those things. We've got some email addresses you can send. We've got our Say It app that you can send things to, and you can remain anonymous. And we get that all the time. It gives us a starting point for investigations, and then we can say, okay, Johnny Smith did it, and we know to look for Johnny Smith, and we can figure out how we backtrack and basically re-engineer what happened without bringing you in, without having you come in and testify and putting you into that uncomfortable position. So please pass that along to your congregations and let them know that we still need the community to tell us stuff. The police department doesn't know everything. People think that we do. But we solve crimes because people are willing to give us information. If people stop talking to us, we won't solve hardly anything. If it's not on camera, we won't solve it. And again, I'm grateful where I work at here, grateful for our community, great support here. Through the hard times of the last 4 years, this community was steadfast and strong for us, to hold us accountable, but strong and believing in us that we were doing the right thing.
So I want to piggyback on one thing, and that is one thing that we as a department believe is that it's not always a one-way street. We don't expect you to keep giving to us and us not still share information with you. And one of the ways that we do that is through education and trainings, and I'll come out and do that any location for free. You guys just set up the time, tell us what you need, whether that be, you know, what gangs are here, how do we know, what are we dealing with? So general gang education, ghost gun education, human trafficking education, active shooter training. You can get with Ms. Dionne, she's putting one together.
Poverty simulations.
Yeah, poverty simulations, so you understand. And just facilitating conversations between generations. Because one of the things that, you know, we see is people saying they don't understand. They think differently. Well, maybe we need to just have conversations so we understand how we think differently, why we're doing things differently. So it's about facilitating conversations in locations with different generations, all at the table. So that's our give. And if you get in contact with us, we will work out whatever it is you need. We will try and help facilitate that.
There was a couple questions back here.
Actually, not a question, just piggybacking on what Danielle was saying. We are putting together an active shooter
Craze
drill
shooting. It's a craze training, and it stands for
Yes.
Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events.
for houses of worship, and we have a date, but I forgot what it was.
And I'd have to look.
I'll email y'all and let y'all know, so you can put it in the,
we'll put it on the
yes,
newsletter.
exactly.
Was there another, I thought I saw two hands, but maybe not.
I was just gonna ask, how do we find out more information about the basketball league, and when do you plan on starting that?
So we are hoping that the practices should start mid-October. Games we're hoping to start at the end of October. We're going to utilize the school systems here though, and the principals, assistant principals, and the school counselors to help identify those kids that will fit best into this program. What we don't, again, want this program to be is all of those kids are playing 3 leagues, or I just won't pay for this one. This will be an extra league for you to play, but we really want to focus on those kids who can't play elsewhere. Give them their moment to shine. Give them those things that they need, that support. So that's what we want to build this around. So once we get those names from the school, it's going to be an invite-only program. So we're going to then extend to those children, your school has nominated you to participate in this program. So it's going to be a positive approach to it, and that's how we're going to get that started. I do have a list of schedules, but if you guys can kind of start thinking about that, it's going to be 6 different teams. So that's what we're looking at supporting. It will be at 3 different locations in the city, 3 different elementary schools for the games, 6 different locations for their practice. So each team has their own home base to practice at, but they're not playing their games at their school. So come the end of October is when we're really gonna start needing your support, helping with those younger siblings, helping with concessions, maybe just kind of being a hall monitor. So if we're in the building, they're not kind of running around that facility. So that's where we will need you guys at.
Ashley's church has.
Male and female, it's
Co-ed.
co-ed. It's co-ed.
Ashley's church has a great gym, by the way, and it's right next to Ruth Ann Monroe. In Easter.
I'll make sure you got my email.
That's
That's what we're looking at now, are facilities.
We're trying to find the facilities that are within walking distance for practice, so that the kids don't have to be transported for that. And then we do the transports for the actual games. So right now we're looking at Bester as one of the school locations for games. We're looking at either Salem or Hager. We gotta go visit them, see who has the better facility for that, and Pangborn.
Pangborn.
There's the 3 elementary school locations. We wanna use elementary schools instead of middle schools. That way the kids don't actually play in the school they come from. Again, we kind of give something a little different.
And what age group, is it just?
It's all middle school.
All middle school age.
So we're looking at like that 10 to 14 age group, and it's gonna be co-ed. And then hopefully next year, depending on how this one goes, we'll be able to expand it up to that high school group of kids.
And then we're gonna follow these kids from the time they go into this basketball program through high school. And we're tracking all the data and figure out where our successes are, down to their grades, their attendance, teenage pregnancy, all that, smoking, all the things that we can track to show success for these kids, we wanna do. And then we're hopefully gonna be able to track parents and guardians as well in terms of their success, whether they need financial literacy or workforce development, or they need help with mental health or their own addictions or whatever's going on. We really wanna create a wraparound for that complete family, so we give the family as much opportunity for success, which allows that kid to succeed. So that middle school kid might be the kids that are focal group start, but if he's got siblings that are younger or older, or she, they become part of our program as well. Yes?
Did you mention that there is also a theater group?
No, I'm saying
Not yet.
There's not yet. What I'm saying is we may have some kids that are
Of course, they're not.
the class clowns that are funny. We want to be able to give them maybe somebody that can teach improv comedy and get them into an improv comedy group so that they can grow their talents as maybe potential comedians, to give them focus for what they're doing instead of just doing something that's disrupting.
And graffiti artists.
Yep.
We've looked at, so I've talked with, as a total, we have about 68 different partners throughout the community, from nonprofits, private organizations, religious groups. We have a huge support right now. Now, not all of them are extremely active, but one thing that I've been working on is reaching out to individuals like the library and saying, hey, is there something that you can do with the youth on this end that, because there are little cauldrons of kids that don't fit in other things. And we need to find those little nuances that are going to catch their attention and keep them going. Stay in school. Let's do these different things. So the comedy is one, music is another, art is another, writing, all of those different components that we can reach out and get people to start programs in. That's what we're looking at doing.
The mayor's looking to start a slam team, which I didn't know what that was until she explained to me. But she wants to start a slam team because there's some in Chambersburg and elsewhere. And I said, it's great, it's a great idea. But the way my brain thinks is, how do we take those kids in a slam team and teach them to be debaters in a high school debate team? Because it's the same kind of thing. And it gives them an opportunity then for maybe college, because now they have this debate kind of focus without taking away their slam team poetry kind of momentum. So it's finding those mentors that can come in and help them with that while they're doing their slam team practices and things. Now you bring in someone that's a debate team organizer that can kind of talk to them about debate, and create that, maybe it's just a different way of approaching it. And you may spark a kid that wants to then get into the debate team when they get to high school. And again, broadening their talents to a way that might help them later, and it's not, they got to do it. It's, we're going to give you this opportunity to learn something that maybe you wouldn't have ever learned because you don't think you can do that. You know, a lot of kids don't ever see college in their future because their parents are poor and they've never had anybody in their family go to college. So how do we change that opportunity for them to at least think they can do it and give them, so start when these little successes become that. So that's the things we're looking for. Anybody wants to start something, then we may be saying, how can we parlay that into something else on top of that? How do we give them, some of these kids in that group, another way to look at life that might be something they want to do. They may not want to do it.
And it might just be partnering you with a different organization.
Yeah.
You know, just combining two different organizations or groups and then having a very strong program.
Yes, sir.
A lot of times we don't find out how we can collaborate until we get started collaborating.
Right.
And what's so exciting to hear about the after school possibilities with the grant we're going for, and this athletic league is you can just never have too much of this. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this pans out, and what's going to be fun is to see how it ends up being something we never envisioned. You have a vision to start,
Right.
but it just becomes what it becomes. And then we find out in the meanwhile how it can collaborate with this after school work that we're trying to
Absolutely.
start at the same time. And goodness
Absolutely.
knows what else is going on, what we're doing with the daycare day.
Right.
You know, what that becomes. It's exciting. And you got people in this hall and others who aren't in this hall who are already doing really cool stuff.
Yep.
With middle schoolers and high schoolers and elementary schoolers. Let's stay committed to it. Clearly, there is a commitment. Because it's not going to go the way we think it might.
No.
We have to be bright, so we got to be prepared for what's not going to go right. But it's exciting to see the commitment in this room to doing something and seeing how it goes.
But trying nothing.
To see how it can collaborate.
Trying nothing is the travesty of life. So if you try and it doesn't work, it's not a failure. That just didn't work. Something else may come out of that does work. So having programs you're talking about that are after school programs and for kids that are elementary and middle, those are those partnerships she's talking about. That once we learn of those, you might be able to bring that program a little further along with some of the kids we're bringing to the table. You know, maybe not the same look, but it may become something there that then gives them that same benefit. So
Yeah, maybe in that 5-day-a-week after-school program, 1 day a week, United Way comes and gives away free books.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of collaboration that we're looking at. The other big thing that we have now that we didn't have before is the support of the superintendent of schools, which has been huge for us. And he is very supportive of what we're doing. We actually have his right-hand person that sits on our board with us. So they are very involved, very committed to making changes.
And I convinced the city to allow this program to be enveloped under the city itself. So we run, Envy essentially is run under the city banner. So we can go after grant money, we can do things that, because we're not a nonprofit, we're not anything like that. It's a government program essentially that has no funding, no real thing. It's about collaborating with all of our partners to create something. So it's more of a philosophy than it is anything else. But the city has allowed me to take this on and bring Danielle on to take the lead on that, on top of everything else she does, to kind of make this go. So I want to thank you guys for allowing us to come in here and take the time.
Thank you.